He was a failed artist who redrew the map of the world. A man whose speeches could ignite millions and whose ambitions nearly destroyed them. Adolf Hitler. To some, he was a savior who revived a broken Germany. To others, he was the embodiment of evil itself. But who was the man behind the mustache? How did he rise from poverty and rejection to command one of the most powerful armies in history? And how did the world allow him to do it? Today, we uncover the story of Adolf Hitler, the man, the myth, and the madness. Born on April 20th, 1889, in Braunau am Inn, a small Austrian town near the German border, Adolf Hitler grew up under the shadow of a strict father and a loving mother. His father, Alois, was a customs officer, cold, harsh, and unforgiving. His mother, Clara, was gentle and kind, the only light in his troubled youth. From an early age, Adolf showed talent in drawing and painting. He dreamed of becoming a great artist, one whose works would hang in galleries across Europe. But fate had other plans. Twice, the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts rejected him, heartbroken. He drifted through the streets of Vienna, selling small sketches to survive, sleeping in cheap hostels, watching the world crumble around him. He saw the rich getting richer, and the poor like him starving. He began to despise the political corruption of the Austrian Empire. And somewhere in those dark streets, the seeds of anger, nationalism, and revenge began to grow inside him. Then tragedy struck. In 1907, his beloved mother died of cancer. Hitler was devastated. He once wrote that her death was the greatest blow I ever experienced. Alone and lost, he left Vienna and moved to Germany, a nation he considered his true home. In 1914, the world erupted into chaos. World War I began. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria set Europe on fire. Empires collided, alliances shattered, and millions were called to arms. Hitler volunteered for the German army. To him, Germany and Austria were one people bound by language, culture, and destiny. He served as a messenger on the Western Front, carrying orders through gunfire and poison gas. His job was one of the deadliest in the war, yet he survived all 4 brutal years. Fellow soldiers described him as disciplined, fearless, and intensely loyal. He was wounded twice, once by shrapnel and once by a gas attack that temporarily blinded him. When the war ended in 1918, Hitler lay in a military hospital, and when he heard the news of Germany's surrender, he broke down in tears. He could not understand how Germany, a nation of strength and pride, had been defeated. He refused to believe it was the army's failure. To him, someone somewhere had betrayed them. That belief would define his life. After the war, Germany was unrecognizable. The once mighty empire was humiliated by the Treaty of Versailles, forced to give up land, dismantle its military, and pay enormous reparations. The economy collapsed. Bread cost millions of marks. Families carried cash in wheelbarrows to buy food. Hunger spread. Unemployment soared. And in the midst of this suffering, the people searched for someone to blame and someone to save them. Berlin, the capital, became a city of despair. Addiction, corruption, and moral decay filled the streets. The country that once produced philosophers and poets was drowning in chaos. But in the smoke and ruin, a voice began to rise loud, angry, and passionate. It was the voice of Adolf Hitler. In 1919, Hitler joined a small political group known as the German Workers' Party. He was sent there as an undercover spy for the army, but what he heard intrigued him. The party spoke of national pride, unity, and revenge against the foreign powers that humiliated Germany. Hitler quickly joined and began giving speeches himself. He discovered a power he didn't know he had, the power of words. His voice could move crowds to tears or rage. He spoke with fire and conviction, promising to restore Germany's honor and destroy its enemies. Within a few years, the party changed its name to the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazi Party. By 1921, Hitler was its unquestioned leader. In 1923, as Germany's economy crumbled once again, Hitler saw his chance. He led an uprising in Munich, known as the Beer Hall Putsch, hoping to overthrow the government. But the coup failed. Hitler was arrested and sentenced to prison. It seemed like the end, but prison became his turning point. There, he began writing Mein Kampf, My Struggle, a manifesto, outlining his vision, a united Germany, free of foreign influence, led by a strong leader himself. When he was released after just 9 months, he was no longer just a failed revolutionary. He was a man with a mission. As the world slid into the Great Depression in 1929, Germany once again collapsed. Factories shut down, banks failed, and millions lost their jobs. The government was weak and divided. The Nazis, however, had a clear message. Germany will rise again. They promised jobs, strength, and pride. Hitler toured the nation, delivering speech after speech. His charisma captivated the masses. In 1933, desperate for stability, the German president appointed Hitler as chancellor. And within a year, through manipulation, propaganda, and intimidation, Hitler eliminated his rivals and declared himself Führer, the supreme leader of Germany. The Weimar Republic was dead. The Third Reich was born. Once in power, Hitler wasted no time rebuilding Germany. He launched massive public works projects, built highways, factories, and new cities. Unemployment vanished. The people adored him. They called him the man who gave us hope. But behind the parades and smiles, a secret was taking shape. Hitler was rebuilding Germany's army in violation of the Treaty of Versailles. In hidden factories, engineers designed new tanks, planes, and submarines. A new, unstoppable force was being forged, the Wehrmacht. By 1935, Hitler openly defied the treaty, sending troops into the Rhineland and announcing the creation of the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe. France and Britain protested but did nothing. They underestimated him. Hitler realized something crucial. The world was afraid to stop him. In 1938, Hitler turned his eyes toward Austria. He claimed that Austrians and Germans were one people. With no resistance, his troops marched into Vienna, greeted by cheering crowds. The Anschluss, or Union, was complete. Next, he demanded the Sudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia populated by German speakers. Europe held its breath. Britain and France, desperate to avoid another war, gave in to his demands in the infamous Munich Agreement. They believed peace had been saved. But Hitler had no intention of stopping. In March 1939, he seized the rest of Czechoslovakia. And now, only one nation stood in his way, Poland. To avoid a two-front war, Hitler made a shocking move. He signed a non-aggression pact with his sworn enemy Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact secretly divided Eastern Europe between them. Germany would take the West, and the Soviets the East. Then, on September 1st, 1939, under a false pretext, German forces stormed into Poland. Tanks rolled across the plains. Aircraft filled the skies. And within weeks, the Polish army was crushed. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. The world had entered its darkest chapter. World War II had begun. The German war machine advanced like lightning, a strategy the world would come to know as Blitzkrieg or Lightning War. In just weeks, Hitler achieved what his enemies thought impossible. He had redrawn Europe's borders once again, but as his power grew, so did his delusion. He believed he was destined to rule the world, that fate itself was on his side. Millions would die as a result. Cities would burn, and the world would never be the same again. This was only the beginning. The rise of Adolf Hitler and the dawn of a war that would change humanity forever. History remembers him as the man who rose from nothing to plunge the world into darkness